two-way tables. There's not a whole lot that comes up new at this level, but they do make them a little more complicated to get started on. So I've used a UE, no, not a UE, an NZQA example from 2018. It's about schools, whether they're private, girls, co-ed, private or state. So they give a bit of information, and often it's the getting started that's the tricky part. So they give that bit of information here. And so we've got two issues. Are they state, are they private, and are they boys, girls, co-ed? And we are working in numbers here, not probabilities. They can go either way. But we are using a bit of percentage. So we've got, we can put that 1 straight in and the 16. We've got two numbers. We can place them on our table. A couple here we've got to say, well, 71% of state schools are co-educational. So we're told that there's 331 state schools, so we're going to have to do a calculation there to get that co-ed number out of the 331. We have to do of 12.9% of schools total are boys, so again we're going to have to use a percentage there. So that is all the information provided so far written in the table. Now, the way I look at it, a little bit of colour coding, but the way I look at it is this. Once I calculate those percentages that are well within reach, everything in blue in the table was given. I'm not sure why I got different shades of blue there, everything that was blue. And then we've got to work backwards and calculate using the red. So once we know the 44 and the 1 in the boys column, we can put the 43 straight in. Once we know and we can work out, we can just sort of work our way backwards. We're told that there's 331 that are state schools, so we will work out there's 18 that are private in this survey, and then we can work out the 1 for the girls because we've got the co-ed and the boys and so on. So numbers in red, we work backwards. Now, in terms of questions, calculate the probability the secondary school is a state girls' school. So that's 53 of them, and that's just and they often start like that with a nice, okay, 53 out of 349, no worries. If a school is private, what is the probability it is a girls' school? So when we do this, this is a conditional question. So the condition says when the school is private. So we're only looking at the top row. We're only looking at those 18 schools. So the condition is nice and tidy. How many of those are girls? So 18 is going to be on the bottom line because that's our total in that case. So 1 girls' school out of a total of 18 private. Are they independent? Now, this formula that we saw earlier comes up. If they're independent, we can multiply one probability times another and we can find the intersection. Now, the good thing is intersections are on the table. So is being private and being a school being co-ed independent, okay? Or does that impact likelihood? So, scroll the right way. Being co-ed is this column here. Being private is this row here. So there are 16 co-ed private schools. So that's your intersection in this case. So this 16 pops up there. That's the probability of being co-ed and private is 16 out of 39. The probability of being co-ed total, 251 out of 349. The probability of being private, 18 out of 349. Those probabilities are all taken straight off the table. The question is, does that work when I multiply them? And the short answer is no. If I multiply that times that, I don't get 0.045, I get something else. If it doesn't work and I have to imply my little not equal to symbol, then they are not independent. That means there is some sort of once we know something is a private school, that impacts the likelihood that it is or isn't co-ed according to these figures. Okay, so they are not independent because the multiplication test there doesn't hold. Part D, compare the relative likelihood of a co-ed. Now this is like relative risk from last year, being private compared to boys' school being private. So being private given their co-ed, 16 out of 251. Private given that's boys, 1 out of 44. So relative likelihood, just like relative risk, one probability over the other in the order they're given to us. And actually, co-ed schools are almost 3 times more likely to be private than the boys' schools. And that's our relative likelihood, according to these figures, which don't seem to match the private schools I know in the country.